Hi, friends. It's Sheryl from Tutoring with Sheryl. I'm the tech coach for tutors, and I'm here with my good friend Tina McMillan from Atypical Tutors, and we're on episode 12 of the Student Success Squad podcast, and we're talking all about back to school routines. And can you believe that we're on episode 12?
I can't believe it. I'm so excited. We did it. 12.
We
That's
did.
amazing.
We did, and I was looking back at like just the statistics on like my playlists and I've got like the Tutoring with Sheryl podcast, and then I've got our Student Success Squad podcast, and I have more views on this. So this is definitely, parents are looking for information, and so we want to thank our parents, and I'm sure there's tutors that are looking at this information too. We want to thank you so much for joining us, and we are so glad that we can be a tool for you to help you with your children, a resource to help you with your children, and then also with your teaching if you happen to be a tutor and you're following along, and our homeschool families as well. I mean, I'm sure we've got a lot of homeschooler families that are following us because, it takes a village and it takes a lot of training. Right before we hit the record button, you and I were talking about the trainings that we continue to do just to make sure that we're ready to work with students and families and make a difference in the lives of kids. So
Absolutely. Things are changing. Technology is always changing. So it's tricky to keep up sometimes, I find.
I would agree with you. Sometimes I feel like my head is spinning. Yes, for sure. But our talk today is about back to school routines. And, the date of this recording is September 22nd, 2025. And for the most part, I'm going to say that probably everybody's back to school here in the States and in Canada. I'm not sure of anybody who wouldn't be. And I'm sure even homeschool families are back at it. And I think those routines, it just takes a while to get into routines. I know when I was in the classroom, we would spend the first week just going through every routine that we wanted our current class to be able to follow. And it seemed really monotonous. And the kids were like, well, I haven't learned anything. But really, they did. They learned the expectations for the school year. And I think we need to just be okay with teaching the expectations.
Absolutely. I totally agree. Well said.
Okay, so the very first thing that I think that we need to talk about is a sleep schedule. And, for right now, if you're watching this after school has started, your kids probably are finally back on that sleep routine. But what I am going to say is in the future, if you wait until the night before to get your kids on their sleep schedule, you're probably doing yourself a disfavor or a disservice because your kids aren't going to be ready. Even though, like I just said, usually the first day back to school is like the routines, the expectations, and all of those things. You want to really start adjusting that bedtime and the wake up times 1 to 2 weeks before school starts, so kids are well rested. But we have more for bedtime routines, and some of the things that I would do with my kids was maybe have a little snack so that they don't get up in the middle of the night, a small drink, our routines of reading books. I think routines make kids feel comfortable. What were some routines that you did with your kids when they were young?
Well, definitely bedtime routines. That was the thing we went through. Either when they were really small, I used to love to have a bath, so they helps them to kind of relax, and then we'd read stories, and then we would have like a bit of a snack if they're thirsty or that, because that kind of heads off the I'm thirsty. After you got them in bed, it's like, well, you just had a drink. I don't know sure how thirsty you really are. You know what I mean? They just don't want
Yeah.
to go to sleep, and that's okay. I would always tell them, you don't have to go to sleep right away. Sometimes your brain takes a while to relax, just like everybody, and it's okay. And then I encourage them to read a book, or they could play, stay in their bed, but stay in their room, just stay there, not be coming out and causing a ruckus, you know what I mean, and getting all overexcited. So that was kind of the big thing, was to kind of just, it's okay. It's going to take time to relax. Everybody's like that.
Yeah, and being okay with just laying there, I mean, I think that's one of the things that I had to really teach my kids, just like you. It's okay if you're just laying there.
Yeah.
And you can think about your day, and if you're a family that prays, that might be a time for your prayer time, or they can lay there and play with a stuffed animal. Eventually they will fall asleep, but just getting them used to being in their space and that routine. Now, here's the other thing: the rest of the house needs to be quiet, because if the rest of you are acting like there's a party going on, I'm going to tell you right now, your kids aren't going to stay asleep. So
No, I totally
Making that
agree.
a priority for everybody, right?
Right. But for the most part, I don't know. I was pretty tired by the end of the day. I wasn't having any parties.
Nor was I. I was like, everybody just be quiet. I can't, I don't want to hear another question for sure. And then, the next day is your morning routine. And then having that structure of waking up, getting dressed, all the things that it takes for your family to get ready. It's if you have that routine, it's going to reduce stress and reduce rushing. And if you have multiple children in your family and you only have one bathroom, you probably do need to have a routine because everybody needs to get in there. And that might mean that you're getting your kids ready first and then you're getting yourself ready, or switch it around. You're getting ready and then you're getting your kids ready. But having that structure, one thing, and I just have to mention this because I just had a student graduate my program. I love her. She's just, oh, I'm going to miss her so much. But one thing that her family did to really set her up for success was on her bedroom door they made a big picture list of things that she needed to do. Make your bed, change your clothes, brush your hair, brush your teeth. And then she actually took some medication to help focus. And that was the last thing that she was supposed to do before she grabbed her book bag, to leave. And it had pictures with it. She could even like check it off if she wanted to. And then I checked back with her right before as we were kind of ending services. And I said, how's that going for you? And she says, it's made a big difference for her. So
Yeah.
having those picture routines, and I know that you do a lot with that with a lot of your students that are autistic as well, to having the pictorial routine so that they can really see that. Do you ever recommend that for parents for like
Oh,
morning routines?
absolutely, absolutely. Especially for kiddos that have either autism and also ADHD helps them to focus. And I'm just noticing on our list for morning routine practice, you can even do a couple of these the night before. You can figure out what you're going to wear. Do that the night before, so then you're not as rushed to figure out what you want to wear. You can take your time. And I would find, especially my daughter, my daughter would change clothes probably 3 times a day. So I never knew which clothes were clean, which ones were dirty. So I got to the point where I would have her pick a couple of choices if she because she definitely needed a choice. I find kids need a choice, but between this and this, I'm kind of controlling the choices a little bit so we don't have the whole closet to pick from. So would do that the night before, and then she would come home at lunch and she would change again. I'm like, whatever. I got used to it. So eventually, at laundry day, I'd be okay. You need to tell me what is dirty. I don't know. And then so she would have a pile that was just worn once or briefly, or maybe changed her mind, put it on and took it off. And then one that was actually she wore for maybe a half a day, and then the other ones were she actually wore maybe for the whole day and got dirty because she played soccer, so it might have grass stains. So then I could tell. Yeah, doing that the night before and also packing your bag the night before. You can even make your lunch the night before. You could do lots of these things so that you're not rushing as much or you don't have to worry as much the morning of, especially if they sleep in, if something happens or alarm clock doesn't work or whatever happens, so
Yeah.
it save time.
Yeah, and I actually talk to each one of my students at the beginning of the school year, and I sit down with them and I talk about what's a goal that you have for school and what's a goal for you have at home. And typically, the goal at home is how to reduce the stress of getting ready for school, either at the end of the day or to be prepared for the next morning. And these are all things that I go through with them. And I know their parents have talked to them about it already. But the thing is that when you get a third party in there that's not in the house, and we can say, and we ask the kids, what do you think that you could do to make this a lot easier for yourself? They know exactly what they need to do. And then you just check back and you say, well, tell me, how is that going? Do we need to rethink that strategy? And then, oh, you've met that goal. Is it pretty good? Do you think we should add something or change it up? And a lot of times they have great ideas. They just need somebody to kind of coach them through it and walk them through it. And I think that's what tutors do. That's what we do. We look at the whole child and we look at how things are going with them and we ask questions and then we help them problem solve. And their parents are always so thankful because they know it takes a village, and they're and that's just like one of those added things. Another thing that we talk about is having that organized homework space. It's got to be quiet. Did you hear what I said? Quiet, quiet, distraction free, with supplies that are ready for schoolwork. So that means that your child should not be right in front of a 52, 70, whatever
Mm.
inch TV with that blaring with their favorite program on. And then they're trying to do their homework. You might think that that's a good thing for your child, but I'm just going to tell you that that's not. They will not be completely focused on what they need to do. So, really, and that includes parents. You can't be having all this chatter. You can't be on your phone with your buddy talking about whatever and speaking loudly. They can't focus. So, it really does need to be quiet and distraction free. So you might think that you're doing them a favor by having them at the kitchen table while you're making supper, but that might not actually work for your child. So if you're seeing that they can't stay focused and they can't start something and finish something, it could be what you're currently doing. So really be reflective about what you're doing, and is it really helping your child?
Right. And I think you want to have it maybe close to you, because sometimes if you have the child is stay in their room and it sounds really quiet, are they really doing their homework? Do you know what I
Right.
mean? Like they aren't necessarily always. And I found maybe having a common area would be great, but it still has a little bit of privacy. And also what I found, I don't know if you've heard this before, that listening to music that doesn't have words in it, like just instrumental music, is
Mhm.
less distracting than music would be with words in it. So
Yeah.
sometimes even
Finding
classical
that
music.
finding that classical music, yeah, the instrumental music that's just honestly, for some kids, it works magic. They will be so focused when they just hear that in the background. And I would do that a lot when my kids were studying for a test. Like if I would have like the last 10 minutes, hey guys, we've got our math test tomorrow. This is what I did in the classroom. I'm going to turn on some music in the background. And if that bothers you, you can sit further away or you can sit over here or whatever. And then, but if you want it to be louder, you can sit closer to it. And just the amount of just bandwidth that those kids would give me, because a lot of times they wouldn't go home and study, so I would just provide the last 10 minutes of class. Hey, this is your study time. You do what you need to do to study, and then teaching those study habits too. Like, how do you study for that test? I didn't put that in here, but that could be a strategy that might help your child be successful as well.
Absolutely. I completely agree. Completely agree.
All right. Healthy meal planning. Planning those breakfast, lunches, and after school snacks that fuel learning and energy. I'm so guilty of having done this. And so I'm going to speak from the perspective of I could have done better. Instead of just having the granola bars and the breakfast bars and the chips in the cabinet, really teaching my kids to grab fresh fruit. I mean, they would eat it if I would make it, but like teaching them, like, hey, you don't have to have that apple cut. You can literally just eat it. If you want a little peanut butter to go on it, that's fine. Just put some in a bowl. Don't double dip, and spread it on your apple. But I think I could have done a better job. And really, in retrospect, I probably, I might have maybe not done a great job of that. So I'm going to encourage you guys to do a better job than what I did. And you know, we were always the family of let's have a quick bowl of cereal before you walk out the door. And honestly, if you look at the sugar that's on the back of that, no wonder my kids couldn't concentrate. If I would have just maybe planned ahead and had some egg casserole in the refrigerator that, they could have eaten, they would not have been starving when lunch came. And for my kids in high school, sometimes they didn't eat until 1:30 in the afternoon. That's a long time to go without having plenty of protein in their belly. So I am going to encourage you to just do a self-reflection on what you're offering your child. There's so many resources out there about foods that fuel the brain, and you're not going to get that sugar crash from it.
Yeah,
And
those are great points that you've made. I totally agree. I know even, well, I go back to my daughter again. Even now, when she wakes up, she's not hungry. So she doesn't eat anything as an adult. She's like 28, doesn't eat anything till like 10 in the morning. I don't know how she does it, because I always made sure she had something to eat at least before she went to school so she
right.
can get through the morning.
Right. But some people, that's just their biology, just the way their body works. And I'm sure she's doing just fine.
Yeah.
But I just keep thinking about kids and what kids really need. And then we look here in the States, a lot of times they can go in and they get their breakfast, but it might be frosted Cheerios or a Pop Tart. And I'm thinking the same thing. Like, those were the kids that were more distracted in the classroom because they, got their high from their sugar and then they'd crash. And so, lots of behaviors sometimes. And I was thinking, Hmm. The kid that maybe grabbed the breakfast burrito that had the eggs and the sausage in it, maybe it was a little bit more even keeled. And those are just experiences. I'm not a medical professional. I'm just telling you from my personal experience as a parent and things that I observed in the classroom. I think we just need to maybe consider, adding some protein to that breakfast for sure. Okay, you actually were just talking about this backpack and supply check. Did you ever have an area in your house where you had like everything laid out, like the kids knew where the crayons were and the markers were and the scissors and the glue? Were you that organized parent that did that?
I kind of was, and everything was like color coded and labeled. I was a little crazy that way, so I had to relax a little bit over the years and not be so anal, as you say, or type A, type A personality. But it also helped them to know where things, were kept. So if they were looking for something, they found it easier to find it. Do you know what I mean? So in the end, it turned out okay. But I had to, I just am an organized person, so it came naturally to me. So I am, of course, inflicted it on my kids.
We kind of had loose organization. I'd have a drawer where everything just go dump it in the drawer. You'll find it in there. And that was not good planning on my part, but they didn't know where to find. There were always scissors, there was always glue, there was always tape. Maybe it wasn't exactly what you were looking for. So I think I think I was just so busy as a classroom teacher. I would just come home and I was just exhausted. And my classroom might be organized, but then at home I was just like, go check that drawer over there. So I think that's another thing I think I could have done a better job at. But making sure that you got tape and you've got glue and you've got scissors and you've got those things actually will speed your homework time up, because when the kid comes home and they say, "Oh, I left that at school," you have a set at home. Colored pencils and just the sharpener that you need for it and all those things. Just double checking it. Honestly, you can get so much of that at a thrift store. You don't even have to spend a lot of money on that. Maybe you want to buy something nicer for school, but you can have the substandard stuff at home and you can still get by with all of that.
Yeah, definitely great advice. Great advice.
And this is a little bit like the snack time, but the after school plan, not just focusing on the food, but deciding ahead of time, what is the afternoon post school going to look like? Are they going to do their snack? They're going to do their play. They're going to do homework, screen time, and then other activities. Like maybe they've got uh, volleyball or basketball or something that they're going to go to, knowing what that schedule is. And the nice part about, as far as like, I'm going to just talk a little bit about my tutoring software. My parents can hop into the tutoring software that I use, Tutorbird, and they can look at their child's schedule with me in case they forgot. And then just being able to communicate that with them, or they communicate with me like, hey, I just had 2 requests this week. Hey, the time we switched them to isn't going to work because of a church related issue, or, oh, my child's got this required meeting that they have to go to. Do you have any other time? And then they can see where their child's scheduled time is, instead of saying, what time are they scheduled for on that night? They already know when they get a hold of me. But having that plan of action, again, what does that look like? When you get home, you can eat, you get half hour of TV time, play time, and then we're going to sit down, we're going to have that homework. And then I'm going to check that homework to make sure that you actually got it done. We're going to pack it back up. I think that's really important. But you and I recorded something about screen time.
We did. We did.
Yeah.
We're talking about how to unplug your kids from too much screen time, which is really tricky these days because it's so easy to be overwhelmed and to have it take over all your time.
hmm And I just had a parent talk to me about talking to their child about stress management. And one of the things that I found out from talking with my student was that they really like to play video games. But knowing kind of the history of what's going on there, to encourage things that are not screen related. And you and I already have that built into that conversation. Maybe we can link that back for
Mm.
parents as a related video, that if your child is struggling with screen time, we've got some things for you. And then I just put on my website, uh, it was a PowerPoint or whatever it was. I made it in Canva, but it was the slides about like how can you time manage your time at school so that you don't have so much homework when you get home, because that's also something that I think kids don't really know how to use that downtime at school. And talking to your kids that if you do have downtime at school, you should be using that time to get this done so that you can enjoy the rest of your time when you get home. Just talking to them about that, I think is really important. All right, family calendars. So whether you're going to use a wall calendar, a digital planner to track those school events, assignments, and extracurricular activities, making it in a common space or sharing that digital calendar with your families, I think is really important. But that way nobody misses anything. What was your routine when your kids were young? How did you communicate that?
Well, we would have sorry, excuse me, I'm losing my voice. We would have generally on the fridge is where I would put our big family calendar. So it's huge, and I like to, it always came with stickers, which I thought was great for birthdays or for special events or parent teacher coming up or holidays or if we were going on vacation or whatever, we could put it all on there so the kids could see, and they would help me put things on there too. So then they were, because that would help them. I would think, no, well, this is where it is. Do you remember you wrote that on there? You put that sticker on. So at least it reinforces that information. And it also, they're a part of it. So they can add things to it as well. And sometimes I got ones they could color when they were younger. And it was fun actually. And then a thing I used to do too, it's a little bit different than this, but when kids are younger, they make a lot of like art pieces or they do a lot of paintings. And for my kids, they were only 2 years apart. So it was like times 2, and it was overwhelming, all the art stuff they would bring home. And I would put like the most, loved ones like on the fridge or whatever, on the pantry door or whatever. Eventually it got overwhelmed. So what I decided to do, which is, I don't know, maybe I'm over the top, I don't know. I would put them on the floor for that month. I would put a card that said whatever September, whatever year it was. I would take a picture of them, and then I could get rid of them. And then I would just
Oh
keep
my
my pictures.
gosh, you
And then I would
are
just keep the pictures. So then they could still have a
you
memory of
are so
it.
good. You are so good. I didn't do that, but I know my family has made me like calendars with the kids' pictures on it, and that's always a nice keepsake as well. But yeah, just having that place to organize, and then also putting like the kids' birthday parties or different things that come up, because if you can't be there and your partner needs to be there and they have to know what's going on, having that having that available. If you're a single family, like you're a single parent, sharing that calendar with your good friend, and saying, hey, this is what I got going on this month. If I can't be there, even taking, like you said, a picture of something and sharing it that way, so that somebody else is in the know on what's going on in your life, I think is really important as well.
Right. And you can even add the older students, they can put when their test is coming up, like a math quiz or a math test,
Hmm.
and they have to study for it. You say, well, it's only 5 days away. Maybe let's just study for like 5 minutes each day. And you'll feel much more prepared by the time that day comes, because kids, they don't understand time management. Time
No.
is like, it's just this anomalous thing, you know what I mean, that floats
Mhm.
around. So all of this kind of helps to teach them how to manage their time better, so they can get more done themselves and have more of a sense of accomplishment and be more in control of their day and their time.
I agree with you. And when the kids are in control, they take ownership. Just like this, when I turn the slideshow here, the little girl was folding her clothes. She looks awful young to be folding clothes, for me. But you mentioned the laying out the clothes the night before, making sure you know where your shoes, jacket, and other things are, and having a home spot for all of that at home so that the kids aren't constantly looking for it is going to be a stress reducer for you, and it's going to it will enable your child to take responsibility for that, because we find ourselves so many times as parents being the keeper of all things. And
Exactly. I even had my kids. Our weather changes a lot. I live in Alberta, so we're close to the mountains. So we could have rain or snow or hail on any given day. Doesn't matter the time of the year. So every morning the kids will be asking, "Okay, what's the weather today?" So eventually, I got tired of answering the question and me finding out. Go check it out. Pull up the Weather Channel. Back in the day, it's the Weather Channel. Pull up
right.
the weather app. Look for it yourself. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think that's just a skill that everybody should be able to do. And again, and I've said this, here, there, and everywhere, that you are your child's first teacher. So if you want them to know how to do it, you cannot assume that the school is going to teach your child everything. I mean, you have to do it yourself too. Okay, I'm trying to turn this, it froze there. Oh, and again, something that we've already talked about, that tech and screen time, having limits on that and setting clear rules for devices on school nights to avoid that late night use and distractions. There was another educator, and I'm sorry, I cannot remember his name, but he found some research that really talked about the aggressiveness of our students, of our children, is getting worse because of the violent games that they're playing. And again, I cannot say this enough, that I think we need to really reevaluate what our kids are looking at on their screens. If your child has YouTube on their device and you are not looking at what they're looking at on YouTube, I'm going to say take that off. That's like I can't even imagine giving a tablet to, a 5 or 6-year-old and saying, just watch YouTube. You
I know.
don't know what they're
Mhm.
watching on YouTube. You
Exactly.
might think they're watching the fun little show that they want to watch, but all it takes is just one little click. And so I am just really going to caution parents, pay attention to what your kids are doing. Again, I'm not going to parent your child. I'm just telling you from personal experiences, both as a parent and as an educator. Things happen that you don't even know about, and then you're like, oh my gosh, and then you're like, you come to the reality that your kid got into something that they should not have been into, and you're like, whoa.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to say, please be very aware of what your children are doing.
Absolutely. And even giving them like carte blanche for YouTube. And what I've understood in research, that they become desensitized to things very
Mhm.
quickly, that normally, they should, they should be able to value, have better values associated with that. So, and like I said, it can happen in a second. An ad will pop up and, hey, that looks really good, because the ads are supposed to look good. They're supposed to be
Mhm.
enticing to everybody. They click on it and it takes them to something else that maybe you had no idea they were watching this one show, and the next thing you know, they're buying something online. And they could
Yeah.
easily. You know what I mean? If
Oh,
they
yeah. I had a parent get a hold of me because their child had, they were just talking to me about it, but um, this was in a conversation that their child had made a whole bunch of purchases on a game that they were playing.
yeah,
And I'm like, okay, so see, there's another thing. Just here's your phone, go play the game, or here's your iPad, go play the game. Like, just being aware of that. Um, yeah, there could be some pretty serious things that definitely
and I'll
happen.
just say one more thing. And also, there's a lot of adults out there that are pretending not to be adults, so who are
Hmm.
looking for children who are easily persuaded and easily enticed, which kids are, because that's
Yeah,
they're innocent still, right? So they know that. So I would only teach them so much. I don't want them to be totally afraid of everything and
right.
terrified, but just to be, trust your instinct a little bit if it feels kind of weird, or ask your mom about it, or so, share. So at least you know where they're at, and you kind
Yeah.
of have so nothing is going to be blindsiding you, hopefully.
Yes, yes, I completely agree with you. So we will definitely link our tech video there because I think it's really important. And
Yeah.
then just having emotional readiness, talking with your kids about what to expect when they're going back to school, starting in a new classroom. Maybe they could be going to school for the first time. Maybe they have a new teacher. Maybe they have the teacher that everybody thinks is horrible. And then they're going to, what to expect. And then they find out that's not the case. Address any worries, build excitement for learning, and then really encourage friendships. And teaching your kids that the friends that they had last year might not be the friends that they have this year, and that friendships change over time, I think is so important, because their little hearts get broken when their best friend doesn't want to play with them. But we have to teach our kids that as they grow and change, their relationships will change as well.
Right. We did a video, a podcast
Mhm.
on that. We should link that one as well. I
We
think
will
those
need to do
ones
that.
are definitely related to these topics for sure.
Yeah, we'll make sure that we have those in our podcast here. But we would love to be a part of your child's success stories, and you can contact either one of us at our websites. We both are available. Tina, you really specifically work with some children with challenges. Can you talk a little bit about that before we end?
Yeah, generally kids that are neurodivergent. So that encompasses ASD, or on the autism spectrum, ADHD, and also dyslexia. And sometimes a combination of those as well, because sometimes they do they come in pairs. So definitely.
They do. They do. And I also work with students who have ADHD and autism, but I specifically work with children who are struggling readers, writers, and spellers. And I bridge that gap so that they can effectively read and communicate at school. So please make sure that you go and visit. We also have one more thing that we will link in the video description, and it is a freebie for you. And it is, we were actually just looking at this. Oh my gosh, I have this in humongous. Oh my goodness. Here we go. It is a checklist for you. And you can go back and you can kind of think, hey, have we addressed these things? So basically, it's just the checklist. And then you can also go over and check out our YouTube link. So that will be in the description as well. We want to thank everybody for joining us for this really important conversation about back to school routines. You can use this at any point in time. If you have not built in your routines, this would be the time to do it. Tina, I'll let you sign us off today.
All right. Well, thanks everybody for watching. I hope you subscribe to both of our channels as well, because we love doing this. And this is our 12th one. I can't believe it. We're going to do many more of these because there's always something to talk about. And please send us your questions and comments and ideas for future topics. We're always looking for things. So we are full of ideas, but we could always use more. Absolutely.
All right, you guys, make it a great day. We'll see ya. Bye.
Bye.